P, un premier but pour l'Université de Guelph. So we are live at the Canadian Ultimate University Championships 2023. For those just joining us, we have had a few technical difficulties, but we are here. I am Chantal Dussault, and I am joined by
Devon Asamoda. And don't worry, folks, you haven't missed much. All you missed was Laval starting on defense with a pull by Robert, and a few turns happened. Guelph working through the match defense by Laval, but eventually Guelph punched it in with the assist from Parentis.
Alors, avec les petites difficultés techniques qu'on a eues au début du match, vous avez manqué le lancer d'envoi de la part de l'Université Laval qui est en rouge, Pénélope Robert, qui a causé ensuite quelques revirements.
So just to set the scene for you, in case you're just joining us on this beautiful Sunday morning in Brampton, Ontario, this is the women's quarterfinal. So both of these teams played 3 games yesterday. Guelph beating Queens and losing tight games to Manitoba and Toronto, while Laval had a lot more success, only losing to Ottawa, but beating teams like McGill and McMaster. So,
oui, pour mettre la table pour ce match-ci, on est dans les quarts de finale. On voit l'Université Laval en rouge qui joue contre l'Université de Guelph en blanc. Les deux équipes veulent se qualifier dans les top 4 équipes. Si l'équipe gagne ce match-ci, elles ont une chance d'accéder aux 4 positions supérieures de la division 1. Par contre, si l'équipe perd, la meilleure position qu'ils pourront atteindre pour le tournoi, c'est la 5e position. Donc, un grand enjeu pour les deux équipes. C'est Amiotte qui prend le disque, la numéro 5, sur le bord du terrain. Jusqu'à présent, il y a eu 1 point de l'Université de Guelph, donc c'est 1-0 pour Guelph pour l'instant.
So, Guelph in this match defense there, opting not to throw their zone, but the unfortunate turn there from Amiotte. Nguyen here on the turn for Guelph, putting up a huck. Looking for cheer. Oh. A great read by Cheer, but she's just not able to bring it down.
C'est Laval qui reprend le disque, qui cherche des bonnes options avec le milieu du terrain, qui optimise les passes dans les côtés fermés, qui fait preuve de beaucoup de patience. La numéro 27, Trahan, qui l'envoie un tout petit peu à l'extérieur. C'est sûr que là, on est dans les premiers points devant. Les nerfs jouent un peu.
Yeah, and that's Nguyen to Muck there in the middle. Muck. So, Guelph in a vertical stack, trying to work their way up, working it around to Yang. Yang back to Mock. Mock with the big one, looking for Hughes, and just out of bounds.
Donc, des revirements des deux côtés pour l'instant. On voit le vent qui a un effet sur les chandails, qui a un effet aussi sur les lancers. Puis le vent est à peu près, il part d'en haut à droite qui va en bas à droite de la caméra. Un beau lancer à Cochon, qui le lance long, à Cochon aussi, qui cherche... Oh, il y a eu un revirement qui a été causé peut-être par un contact. Les deux joueurs se discutent.
So, Chantal, can you tell us about the wind today and what direction it's coming from, just for the viewers at home?
Yeah, the wind is coming from the top left of the screen to the down right of the screen, and it is about 20 kilometers per hour with gusts up to 30 kilometers per hour. So when players are on the sideline that is to the bottom of the screen, that is the tough position to be in to get out of, because you're going up against the wind to get out of this sideline.
Yeah, so
I was going to ask Devon, right now that the players are discussing, so maybe let's have a quick chat regarding Ultimate Frisbee and the fact that they can discuss, and we have a green shirt on the field.
Yeah, so those green shirts on the field are observers, are wonderful observers. We have Nelson and Linda. So essentially, they're Ultimate versions of referees. So Ultimate players can still use that spirit of the game, call their own fouls, but they can ask a third-party non-biased person for their perspective on the things. And observers are making active calls like in and out of the end zone, and they help keep time in between points just to keep the game flowing a little more smoothly. So
Cochon qui reprend. Oui.
We have Cochon with the disc.
Oui.
Working.
Cochon qui cherche. Quelle attrapée de la main droite de la numéro 43, Charlotte Benoît. Les observateurs confirment, c'est un premier point au tableau pour l'Université Laval.
Yeah, that was just a great one-on-one isolation in the end zone, working quickly after the foul. And yeah, Laval now getting their first hold. So 1-1 on the board, back on serve.
Oui, puis on parle ici que l'Université Laval a gardé l'avantage, c'est-à-dire qu'elles ont reçu le lancer d'envoi de la part de Guelph et elles ont été capables de compléter le point. Donc, elles gardent cet avantage. Ça n'a pas été un bris, un peu comme au tennis. Quand on dit qu'il y a eu un bris, c'est parce qu'il y a eu un lancer d'envoi d'une équipe et puis que c'est cette même équipe qui a réussi à faire un point. Ça, c'est un bris.
So you see here Nguyen and Muck doubling over from that D point. Guelph is a deep team, but they do rely on some of their top end stars. So some players to look out for this Guelph team. We have Brianna Prentice from Union and getting U24 Team Canada experience on the mixed team. May Nguyen from Crash, been a staple of this Guelph team for a few years now. And Sam Muck, who actually started playing in first year, decided to get more into Frisbee, started touring, played incognito, went over to the UK on her exchange and played Smog. So shout out to anyone from Smog if you're watching, and then playing incognito this past summer. What about some players to look out for on Laval?
Right, there's a lot of them like Penelope Robert, who did the pull, and who is named Pepe, who was on Team Canada, as well as other very prominent teams, such as Iris and Vare Or.
Yes, Penelope Robert, one of the transfers coming in for this season, so one of the Huckney transfers to watch there. So we have Prentice working out big backhand, looking for Nesbitt, and that's a goal. Must be great to have a thrower like Prentice on your team, right?
It must be amazing. So that is confirmed, which means that the score is now 2-1 for Guelph. Also a hold for Guelph. And so no team has broken for now.
No, it's probably going to be a day of hold with this fierce upwind downwind. And I would like to take a moment to thank our sponsors.
Yes, we're very lucky to have some generous sponsors at this tournament.
Yeah, so sponsors like B Ultimate, Discraft, and the City of Brampton for making this event possible. B Ultimate is on site. Go have a look at all of their amazing swag and see CUUC attire.
So it will be Guelph who will be pulling. And so l'Université Laval va recevoir cette fois-ci et devrait être en mesure de bouger le disque en espérant qu'ils vont pouvoir bouger le disque de façon très précise et le garder en mouvement, parce que c'est vraiment une de leurs stratégies clés à l'Université Laval, c'est de toujours garder le disque en mouvement, puis finalement de pouvoir exploiter le fond quand il y a une bonne opportunité. Alors, on va voir si c'est ce qu'elles sont capables de mettre en jeu pour ce point-ci, pour garder l'avantage.
All right, so it looks like Prentice and Nesbitt will be doubling over for this D point. Prentice with a big pull, and Laval will be looking to hold downwind.
On voit la numéro 5 qui va récupérer le disque. Sarah Maud Amiotte, qui a joué pour l'Université Laval Excellence depuis quelques années déjà. On voit une formation horizontale de l'Université Laval. Un bon choix dans une condition venteuse qui donne plusieurs options. Amiotte qui cherche à recentrer et à créer des options sur le côté. Mais le vent l'attrape et c'est un revirement.
And that was Yang with the D. Yang coming over from BC with some Eclipse and Mischief experience and playing Crash this past summer. Centering to Prentice. Prentice over to Nesbitt now. Guelph looking quickly, looking to punch in their first break. Back to Prentice. Look at her to quarterback this D-line offense. Over to Palmer.
Une belle fermeture du côté fermé par de Catherine Denis.
Yep. Prentice facing the stiff upwind, hitting that back around the mark to Yang. And that is Desprez trying to play some defense. Yang with the around, just the edge a little wrong and falling out of Prentice's reach.
Oui, un beau positionnement de Victoria Trahan, la numéro 27, qui était bien reculée pour créer le plus d'interférences possible, qui a forcé un lancer un petit peu à l'extérieur et plus loin que ce que la joueuse voulait. Maintenant, on a Pénélope Robert avec le disque. Non, pardon, c'est Sarah Maud Amiotte avec le disque qui l'a lancé à Juliette Fournier, qui est malheureusement. Noémie Cochon, qui est malheureusement lancé à l'extérieur.
Yeah, and that's the product of Guelph's stifling defense there, just not giving any unders, and Laval not looking for that huck and pin that we might see later on in the game. So
it is harder to do huck and pin with this kind of wind, we must say.
Yes. So Yang's OI flick just falling a little farther away. Laval back on offense.
Trahan qui prend le disque et cherche à le recentrer. Mais encore, ce fameux vent qui attrape le côté du disque et le ramène plus proche, au moins, de la ligne du centre du terrain.
And Chantel, you can see the wind just wreaking havoc on some of these throws. Prentice calling a timeout. What's the difference between throwing in this high wind and throwing in no wind like some of the players have been experiencing for most of their Frisbee careers?
Ooh, the wind almost pushed me back, Devon. This is a very intense gust. I'm not sure if you can see it on the camera, how much the shirts are moving, and it is very difficult to keep a disc steady with this kind of wind. So the disc has to be very flat, a lot of spin, and the long throws will be either lifted up by the wind if they're thrown into the wind, or they will be pushed down to the turf if they're with the wind. So what about you, Devon? What do you think? Why do you think Guelph took a timeout here?
I think Guelph took a timeout because they had a couple chances to score. They probably they're really close to the end, right? They're on the other team's half, so they just want to really punch in this break. And in this game, it might just take one or two breaks to give you the game. And like we said, this is Guelph's first time in Division 1 since 2015, and they'd love to make it to semis. This is a team that has been building since COVID. So from that 2021 season, they were in Division 2. Last year, they lost in the game to go to Ottawa to stay in Division 2, and then they ended up winning that Division 2 title. Now they're in Division 1 looking to make some more noise and place higher than 8th.
Je vais le répéter en français, Devon, parce que c'est un vraiment bon point. L'équipe de Guelph veut se classer pour les top 8 parce que ça fait plusieurs années qu'ils ne se sont pas classés. Puis ils aimeraient ça même arriver dans le top 4, pourquoi pas. Alors ils ont faim, ils sont fébriles, mais ils sont très, très excités puis ils travaillent fort.
This is a bit of a hospital pass from Prentice there, but that is the height of Benoit getting the D there. Laval back on trying to get their hold.
Amiotte qui a le disque, qui fait une belle petite passe à Trahan, mais c'est juste un petit peu trop loin. Encore ce vent qui pousse les disques de façon...
So Prentice here unmarked. Trying to tell her players where to go, trying to direct traffic here. There's a little bit of a poach from Amiotte in the lane.
Ça l'a forcé un lancer sur le côté qui n'a pas fonctionné. Donc, Trahan reprend le disque, qui fait un beau lancer du côté fermé, mais c'est juste un petit peu trop loin pour Amiotte. Ça retourne à l'Université de Guelph.
And this has now turned into a point of will. Which team is going to march up? Prentice with the disc again.
C'est certain que les filles commencent à être un peu plus fatiguées. Le point commence à être long. C'est bien qu'il ait pris un temps mort. Mais je remarque aussi, Devon, que le stack est un peu loin des handlers. Peut-être avec ce vent-là, ça vaudrait la peine de rapprocher les cutters pour qu'elles soient plus proches des handlers.
Pour Laval ou quoi?
Pour Laval, là, il était en offensive, Laval, puis je trouve que ça ne donnait pas une grande chance aux lanceurs de faire des lancers de précision.
Oui, je suis d'accord. And what Chantel is explaining is the stack from Laval was just a little too far away from their handler, not really giving them the option. But we see Laval setting a zone here, I guess seeing how close they are to Guelph's end zone. And Prentice wasting no time getting the disc out of there. Cheer reading that the best, they're catching it. Cheer to Yang. Guelph just trying to keep working up. Prentice not going to leave her stranded.
On entend fire, qui veut dire que Laval arrête de faire sa zone puis commence à faire
And Prentice
la défensive
looking for
de chaque
options.
personne.
Sees Palmer. Prentice to Palmer. But a stall called. And Prentice immediately putting up the two fists to contest. So in Ultimate, you have 10 stalls with the disc. So it sounds like stall 1, stall 2, and up to stall 10, the tee of 10, and that is a turnover. So it looks like it's a contested stall.
Cochon dit que ça faisait déjà 10 secondes et puis que le temps était écoulé. Par contre, la joueuse de Guelph disait que ce n'était pas le cas. Donc, ils en ont discuté. C'est retourné à la joueuse de Guelph. Ce n'est pas un revirement pour l'instant.
Le disc commençait à 8, but just a little overthrow here, too far for Yang.
Qui cherche à compléter, mais c'est un petit peu trop vite pour Denis. La passe lui file entre les doigts.
So Laval melting back into this zone. Prentice calling a violation. So the thing about these zones is you can only be within 10 feet of the mark. You have to be more than 10 feet away if there is already a mark there. So Prentice just signaling that they were too close to her.
Pour l'instant, la joueuse de Guelph a arrêté le jeu parce qu'elle dit qu'il y a plus qu'une joueuse en dedans de 10 pieds de elle. Puis en situation de zone, les autres peuvent interférer, mais pas à moins de 10 pieds. Il y a seulement une défenseur à 10 pieds ou moins qui peut être présente.
Prentice getting out of this zone to Nesbitt with a great layout by Yang. Nesbitt with the disc to Prentice. Prentice with a nice inside to Nesbitt, going basically every other between Nesbitt, Yang, and now getting Cheer involved in the play. Prentice using some great footwork. Oh, and the disc just dropping away from her. Cheer working very quick to cover that deep strike from Cochon.
Cochon qui tentait de donner une option longue à son équipe et étirer le jeu. Mais il y a un arrêt de jeu encore, un appel. Devon, c'est pas clair. What was the call about?
So, the Laval player with the disc there went for a huck and said that Yang hit her hand there on the throw, preventing her from getting a clean throw out.
D'accord, donc on peut voir ici les charades qui commencent pour imiter ce qui s'est passé. Il y a la joueuse de l'Université Laval qui dit qu'il y a eu un contact qui lui a empêché de faire le lancer.
So it looks like the foul has been just retracted or overturned here, and Guelph is back on offense. Prentice wasting no time looking for Reed in the air, and Laval just defense stifling all of these hucks.
Oui, et c'était pas très lent. Tantôt, c'était Denis avec le disque, juste pour clarifier. On a Laval en possession. Oui, et c'est maintenant Laval va mettre une défensive, personne à personne.
And it looks like Reed there with the D over Emyat. Prentice picking it up. Not liking what she's seeing. Swinging to Yang. Oh, man.
La lanceuse de Laval qui dit « Je vais laisser quelqu'un d'autre le prendre ». Donc, Victoria Tran qui a donné beaucoup. Et voilà, un temps mort pour reprendre les esprits, parce que ça peut devenir un peu décourageant avec autant de vent. On peut perdre un peu confiance. C'est le temps de prendre de l'eau et puis reprendre confiance. It's time to drink a little water and get some confidence back in our throws and in our way of playing. They know how to play, Devon. This is not characteristic. The wind is having, I think, a major impact on the play here.
Oh, yes. Two strong teams here, both earning the way to Division I a little differently. So Laval had some early season success, winning their prep tournament in Quebec and winning the Quebec qualifier, and Guelph just having to work their way through the back door. They actually had a game to go earlier on in the season at Steeltown, losing a close game on University of Toronto, and then now having some difficulties at the Eastern qualifiers, but making their way back for the Friday qualifier and earning their way into Division I here.
Mm-hmm. And Université Laval was ranked 5th at this CUUC. They already had their spot. They did not need to qualify. They were ranked 5th last year at the end of CUUC 2022, and they had won all of their games this season. They won all the championships, all of the games, until yesterday. They lost one first game of their entire season. This is for Université Laval. So both teams are very strong and very dedicated, but with this wind, they will need to adjust. And we're seeing a bit of a split stack formation de l'Université Laval qui met une formation qu'on appelle le split stack. On voit un essai d'avoir un lancé sur le côté, mais une grande défensive. Une défensive de la part de la numéro 20 de Guelph, Dorigo.
So it looks like...
mais il y a un contact qui est appelé.
Looks like it was Dorigo fouling the Laval player Cochon, and uncontested. So Cochon will get the disc for Laval in the same space where the foul took place.
Cochon reprend le disque puisqu'il n'y a pas de conteste. C'est vrai qu'il y a eu un contact qui lui a empêché de garder possession. Maintenant, on a le numéro 12, Cochon, avec le disque, qui cherche une bonne option et qui finit par l'envoyer dans le fond. La défenseur qui dit « le temps était épuisé ». Donc, est-ce que le disque va rester dans la zone de but ou est-ce qu'il va revenir à l'endroit où la 22, Celine Nesbitt, dit que ça faisait déjà 10 secondes?
Yeah, and you saw that great handler defense from Prentice there, causing the Laval player Cochon to not have any options, getting stalled out with Nesbitt's big mark there. So, turnover, and Guelph gets a little bit more favorable field positioning here. Prentice picking up the D, this QB1, trying to marshal Guelph to their hold.
We see that the teams are trying different strategies. Now this looks like an ISO on the part of Guelph. They're putting someone long. They're isolating maybe with their 3 handlers.
Yeah, you see Palmer getting involved there in the backfield now. Prentice looking for Yang. Hitting that IO flick, just going over the head of Dorigo.
And Laval is sending someone long, and they're going to put it, but there is a defense. So number 5, Amiot trying that long throw.
Yeah, and you can see Amiot and Prentice are playing similar roles here on the team. Amiot picking up every disc, hucking a lot of discs, not necessarily worried about the turnovers, but just trying to get their team into their own end zone. And Prentice having the same role, carrying a big throwing load for Guelph. And look at her just looking for options, trying to put it up.
And given the number of throws, Devon, this is probably not a bad strategy. Oh, une belle grande défensive de la part de 43 Charlotte Benoît qui cause un revirement très près de la zone de but de l'Université Laval. Laval is going to have a chance to score here.
Yes, just at the front cone here. We'll see what Guelph does to play some defense. It looks like they're leaving a couple players unmarked in the end zone. Prentice looking to poach the lane.
Donc Laval qui semble isoler une joueuse à la droite. La joueuse qui rentre pour un attrapé. Et c'est confirmé. Donc, ce long point qui se termine par un attrapé de la part de l'Université Laval dans la zone de but.
Yeah, so Laval taking quite a few chances to get this point, but working their way out down the field, using that field positioning, and eventually getting their second hold of the game, making it 2-2.
2-2. Considérant le nombre de minutes qui se sont écoulées, c'est un score très bas pour le match des quarts de finale, Devon. Considering that the game has already been on for 25 minutes, having a score of 2-2, what does that mean?
That just shows you the conditions, because a lot of these players were playing games up to 13 yesterday.
Right.
So it just tells you how much slower it's going to take, because, like you saw, they're going to have to take a lot more shots.
Puis Laval qui a célébré avec leur cri d'équipe traditionnel. Leur cri d'équipe s'intitule 50 Shades, donc 50 nuances. Parce que ce qu'ils disent, c'est qu'il n'y a pas juste du blanc, du noir au frisbee. Il y a 50 nuances de gris. Le frisbee, c'est pas une chose, c'est intuitif.
So we have a Laval on defense. Robert about to pull. And the usual suspects on this Guelph O-line, Prentice and Nesbitt, doubling over after that long point, but I'm sure that they are used to it, just helping being one of the stronger players on Guelph throughout the season.
Un beau lancer d'envoi de la part de Pénélope Robert.
I don't know how much I'll say this today, but Prentice picking up the disc for Guelph. It looks like Guelph will be working out of a vertical stack there. Laval just trying to find it. Isolating Nguyen.
Robert qui protège le fond du terrain.
Nguyen with a nice backhand break to Muck there. Muck looking for Nguyen in the reset space. Great defense there by Rochefort to prevent Nguyen from getting the reset. And Muck looking toward the end zone, but just a little too far. So it looks like Guelph will go into a zone defense here. making it a lot harder for Laval to work the disc up with their usual center handler, Amiot, off the field.
Oui, l'équipe de Guelph applique une espèce de zone, mais c'est une zone spéciale qui a une personne sur le dump. Il y a vraiment un personne à personne du côté dans l'arrière. Et ça fait déjà 10 secondes. Donc, l'Université Laval a perdu possession.
And that was great defense there. Nguyen on the mark. They're calling a stall, just working. And Prentice getting open at the front cone. Nguyen to Prentice for the Guelph score, putting Guelph up 3-2. All holds so far.
Une perte de possession difficile pour l'Université Laval qui va être obligée de s'adapter à cette zone spéciale qui met non seulement 3 personnes en avant, mais aussi une personne sur le dump, ce qui est assez compliqué dans des situations comme ça. Ils vont s'adapter, j'en suis absolument certaine. So what happened there was that the University of Guelph put on a three-man zone, three women's zone, but also someone on the marking the dump. So that made it extremely difficult for the Laval handler to get out of that position. But I know that they will adapt to that. But Guelph wasted no time and made a point. So that is a hold again, Devon. We have not seen a break so far.
No, and I think the breaks will make the difference today because, as you can see, it's so much easier to hold going on that downwind side, going left to right in the screen. So one break might do it. And Guelph starting on O, they definitely had an advantage there just with the luck of a flip of a coin.
Right. So if we don't get to half and there's no flip of the fields, this might be the advantage that makes the difference in these quarterfinals.
Yeah, and just to situate you now, we have Nguyen pulling for Guelph. We'll see what type of defense they come out with to challenge this Laval O-line.
Le disque qui roule à l'extérieur. On va voir le numéro 5, Amiot, qui va prendre le disque sur le côté. Encore, c'est la ligne où c'est le plus difficile de sortir. Ils ont Robert comme option pour recentrer. Ah, il a choisi Cochon à Robert, qui la met dans le fond du terrain. Juste, je vous dire juste un peu trop loin, puis vu que ça a frappé la clôture, c'était beaucoup trop loin.
Yeah, and Robert just exposing the edge of that disc a little too much in the wind and it carrying it away. So it looks like the wind has died down just a little, and we'll see if Guelph can work through this zone. Nguyen picking up the disc on the front cone, on the front line of the end zone. Working through the middle to Palmer, but just bouncing off her hand.
Amiot picking up
very quickly.
À la receveuse. On va voir son numéro bientôt, mais c'est donc un point pour l'Université Laval. Un autre hold.
So it looks like it is now 3-3, with Laval getting that hold a little faster than their last hold. So clearly figuring out the wind a little bit.
Absolument, Laval qui ne perd aucun temps à reprendre le disque. Et c'est la numéro 10, donc Brière-Audet, qui a attrapé cette passe pour faire le point.
So now in between this points, we see the coaches coming on to give some instructions. Do you have any information on this Laval coaching staff?
Exactly. They are two of them. There's Laurence Drouin and Léa Morneau. And not only do they have ultimate frisbee coaching experience, they have basketball and hockey coaching experience. Alors, les entraîneurs de l'équipe de Laval, Laurence Drouin et Léa Morneau, qui ont de l'expérience non seulement avec les équipes de frisbee, mais aussi en basketball puis en hockey. Puis Devon, les coachs pour l'Université de Guelph, qu'est-ce que tu peux nous dire à leur sujet?
Oui, les entraîneurs de Guelph. The coaches for Guelph are Marianne and Keegan. Marianne actually playing on this team in 2019 and then helping coach the team the past 2 seasons. Her bringing in experience from that Thunder and Crash system in the KW region. And Miller helping out with a lot of video analysis. If you've ever seen Guelph play at a tournament, you've seen Miller with his 20-foot pole recording, getting all the angles for Guelph and making sure that they know exactly what's going on.
And fun fact, Miller and Marianne played together on Thunder, and they are partners.
Oh, we love to see it. Thank you to all of our volunteer coaches at the CUUC, helping Frisbee of this generation. So that was Prentice picking up the disc off the pull from Laval and hucking it to the end zone. The wind just picking it up, but incomplete nonetheless. So Laval working their way up for a break, and they're going to have to get through this stifling Guelph zone.
Laval qui tente aussi de lancer loin contre le vent, ce qui n'a pas de succès. On a vu tantôt Rochefort qui a fait un bel effort défensif.
And that was a great deep from Palmer. Palmer coming from that local 6-1-3 team in Kingston. So using all that club experience to read the disc there. And then again, a quick pickup from Nguyen, hitting Prentice at the front cone, giving Guelph their 4th score and their 4th hold of the game.
So it is again a hold, Devon. So I believe you're right. Whichever team is going to be scoring up against the wind is going to have the advantage of this game.
Yeah, so we'll see if any team can get that pressure's coveted upwind break, and it'll definitely give them a lot more breathing room.
So it's already almost 10:30, which means that these teams have been at it for 35 minutes. And I don't think that what's going to cause the halftime is going to be the points. I think it's going to be about because there is a halftime that will be either triggered by the points reaching to 8 points, or after 40 minutes, they will continue to play one more point.
Yes, and it looks like this D-line is not going to have any crossover players for Guelph. You see just Yang and Cheer gonna lead the D-line for Guelph, and Robert sitting off this O point for Laval. We know she played the last one.
We do have Trahan, which is probably, and Amiot, who are key players. And in the center, we have Hébert. Hébert with the disc. Hébert à Amiot. Amiot qui la met long. À Benoît qui l'attrape. Et c'est confirmé un point rapide pour l'Université Laval. Quelle belle exécution. Le lancer long est réussi. Ça fait plusieurs fois qu'ils l'essayent, mais peut-être que les équipes commencent à sentir le vent et avoir un peu plus d'expérience pour jauger la force à mettre. Donc, le score est de 4-4 pour Guelph et Laval. Aucune équipe encore a eu l'avantage de faire un point contre le vent. C'est ce qui va faire la différence dans le match, tout probablement. Les équipes n'ont pas vraiment le temps d'appliquer des jeux très sophistiqués. Les jeux qu'on voit, c'est du traditionnel horizontal, du stack vertical. On a vu un petit peu un split stack, mais avec le vent qu'il y a, c'est assez limité en termes de stratégie. Je pense que les joueurs essayent de recentrer le disque, de le bouger de la façon la plus organique possible. What do you think the strategies they can apply with this disc are for today, Devon, given that now Guelph is going to receive this disc?
Yeah, it looks like the past couple points, Guelph has just taken a huck to Laval's end zone, put on that pressure zone, and then use that field positioning to get an easy score in the end zone. So we'll see if they employ that huck and pin strategy when getting in a high stall count, because you wouldn't want to turn it over close to your end zone at all. So Robert there with the pull staying in bounds, but the disc had other plans and rolling just out of bounds. So we have Prentice picking up here for Guelph in a vertical stock, and we'll see who they look to isolate.
Lucier qui applique une force très active.
So Prentice pivoting, Prentice just putting it up there. Has a couple targets in the end zone, just out of bounds. But look for Guelph to set this zone. You mentioned taxiing a handler, making it real hard to get a reset off.
Heureusement, l'Université Laval va être plus centrée que la dernière fois, mais on s'attend à une zone avec une personne dédiée sur le dump. Ah, mais ça n'a pas l'air d'être le cas. Oui, c'est le cas pour l'instant. Donc, mais Laval s'est adapté et a créé une autre option. C'est la numéro 16, Lucier, qui la donne à Robert, qui fait exactement la stratégie qu'on anticipe, c'est-à-dire de le lancer le plus loin possible de la zone de but.
And you saw Muck doing everything she could to make sure that disc hit the ground and waiting for the disc to roll a bit. So Muck putting it in for Guelph. Muck putting up a shot, and that is brought in by Reed. Great catch, Muck to Reed, putting them back up into the lead 5-4. All holds, Chantal.
Another hold. So no surprise there. The hook and receiver strategy seems to be working, and it was a good attempt by Renault to do that, but there's a good read on that disc by the University of Guelph. But now it seems that the whole staff is on the field, planning out their next lineup. Do you think there's any chance that Guelph could score this upfield and create a break with this upcoming point?
Oh yeah, it looks like Prentice and Nesbitt are coming through, and the closest Guelph has got to this break has been with Prentice on that D line, because such a strong thrower, cannon of an arm. She's able to put it upwind and really marshal this. So we'll see if they can put enough pressure to get a turn. And it's not just about getting the turn, it's about getting that field positioning too, Chantel. It's really hard to work from that front corner of your end zone. So if Guelph can get a short field turn, get the disc onto the Laval side, I'm sure Prentice would be able to help them march it in for a break.
A good pull would be an advantage at this time. So let's see how that pull goes.
And good pulling is getting past the half line, rolling it out of bounds. Amiot looking to pick up the disc again.
Donc Amiot qui regarde les options. Qui va faire il semble y avoir quand même des poches. C'est comme une zone appliquée contre elle, mais c'est Cochon qui l'attrape et qui la place long. Oh, c'est le disque rebondit des doigts de Benoit.
That was Guelph coming out with a newer zone we saw there, just taxi on the dump, flat mark, and a couple poaches in the lane there. So we'll see if Prentice can work with Yang, Nesbitt, Cheer, Palmore, DeRing, Reed, just to get through the zone here. So Prentice over to Nesbitt, continuing to Prentice. Getting it quickly off the line to Yang. You see Prentice going every other. Looks like she's looking for a moment where she can huck the disc.
Benoit qui est positionné stratégiquement pour empêcher une longue.
So this Laval 3-3-1 zone proving to be too much for Guelph there. The disc just turning over away from Yang. And
c'est Amiot qui va reprendre le disque pour Laval.
Yeah, so it looks like Amiot is going to take the disc from the front corner there, and we'll see. She has the Prentice assignment. Oh, it looks like Palmer would be watching. We'll be marking her there, and we'll see what Laval can do, isolating their teammates in the end zone.
On a Cochon isolé dans le fond du terrain, et il y a l'autre Cochon à l'intérieur du terrain, à l'intérieur du end zone, plus proche du devant. Donc, c'était Noémie plus proche du devant et puis Justine dans le fond du terrain. Par contre, ça n'a pas fonctionné.
So it looks like Laval is switching the force of their zone. They were forcing backhand previously, but now they're forcing flick. So Prentice still picking it up to Reed. Reed to Prentice again. Nesbitt doing a great job crashing through this zone. Giving and going. We got Dorigo getting involved. Back to Nesbitt. Oh, Prentice hitting the ground to save the disc. And she's all right, just plopping back up. So it's tricky, you know. You see Guelph having to use a lot of different passes, a lot of short swings here. And Prentice just putting it up. She has Cheer and Reed in the area. And that is Reed with a great read on the disc, putting it down, giving Guelph this great field position right here. So Prentice looking for Cheer at the front of the stack here. Guelph in a lot of space. Oh, Prentice going every other here. You can expect that from her.
Cochon qui marque pour prévenir le lancer du revers.
Prentice with an IO flick, but Amiot reading it just a little better.
Belle interception d'Amiot dans la zone de but pour créer un revirement. Benoît Amiot qui est la place à Denis, qui attend son équipe patiemment. Oh, quelle attrapée derrière elle de la part de la numéro 27, 30.
So,
c'est échappé.
So Guelph back with a disc. Yang picking it up to Prentice. Looks like they're in a person defense here, Laval, opting not to set their zone after the turn. Nesbitt back to Prentice, but just a little too far. So,
Amiot qui ramasse, qui va avoir la chance de faire le point, qui l'envoie Cochon, qui l'envoie dans le fond, juste un peu trop loin à nos Mimi Cochon dans le fond.
So, Chantel, we've seen a few turns on these points already. How tired are these girls right now?
They must be pretty tired, and I would not be surprised to see a timeout being called anytime soon, Devon. This is a very long point. You can see even the way that the girls are walking. I think they're pretty tired. So hopefully, yes, this does impact the ability to make certain decisions. The more tired we are, the more decisions become complicated. On voit Amiot qui revient. Les filles commencent à être fatiguées, mais ils ont une chance encore de faire le point. Amiot qui cherche Trahan, Trahan qui cherche à se démarquer, mais le lancer est fait dans le centre du terrain à la numéro 12, Cochon. C'est un petit peu trop rapide et s'est échappé.
So, Prentice picking up the disc, looking to work quickly for Guelph here. Up the field to Nesbitt. Back to Prentice in the middle. Nesbitt and Yang in a lot of space, but just not able to connect on that last throw.
Trahan qui ramasse, qui cherche, et oui, qui très beau lancer à Amiot, qui le met dans les mains de Cochon, et c'est finalement réussi pour l'Université Laval, qui maintient le point qu'elle devait faire. Dans le sens du vent, encore.
So that was Amiot to Denis to put Laval.
Oh, was it Denis? Thank you. I thought it was Cochon.
Pas de problème, madame. That was Amiot to Denis, putting it 5-5 to Laval now. And it looks like a timeout has been taken after this long point. Laval probably wanting to stack up some lines here and maybe double some ladies over.
And maybe they want to create a strategy to be able to make this next point upwind. Alors, l'Université Laval, qui probablement est en train de trouver une stratégie pour faire un point contre le vent, qui leur offrirait un grand avantage pour le match et potentiellement la capacité de remporter la victoire et de se classer dans les 4 premières équipes du tournoi. Et on a beaucoup de joueuses d'expérience sur l'Université Laval. Les joueuses comme Pénélope Robert, on en a parlé, de la Team Canada, Iris Varéard, mais on a aussi plusieurs autres joueuses comme Sarah Maud Amiot, qui a joué pour l'Université Laval Excellence, mais aussi Maëlle Roux, qui est avec Cube, Victoria Trahan, qui était clé comme handler, qui est avec Vénus. Sur Vénus, c'est une cutter, mais elle fait un très bon travail comme handler avec l'Université Laval. Émilie Rochefort, qui est avec Quest. Et puis, Mia Catherine Lucier, qui est avec Karma. Vous allez peut-être la remarquer, Madame Lucier a des spikes, des souliers roses, numéro 16.
And we've given love to some of the top players on this golf team, playing Team Canada, Crash. But let's give some love to the Thunder players who played in first year and then just decided to tour so they could be better for this Guelph Loaf team. And that's Marissa Booth, Victoria DeRigo, Melanie Nicholson, Lauren Reed, and Kira Cheer playing Thunder this season, helping Thunder get their first bid to nationals in a while.
And for us, for everyone listening, what is Thunder?
Thunder is the B team out of the KW region. So there's a top mixed team, Crash, and they're just been a mainstay on the Canadian Ultimate Championship circuit. And Thunder is their B team, who qualified out of Ontario as a 7th seed, and that was pretty exciting because Thunder hasn't been to nationals in a few years.
That's great. Kitchener-Waterloo represents. And you said their name was Loaf. What does that stand for?
Loaf stands for Ladies on a Field, and it's a metaphor for how close the girls are on this Guelph team. So we have Brooke Bear with the pull. Again, on that low sideline, we'll see who their matchups are. So, Nguyen picking up the disc. Looks like Guelph will be working out of a vert stack. And Nguyen hitting an OI flick to Muck. And that is a play call if I've seen one. You saw Muck strike from the handler's space, getting some distance, and Nguyen calling the shot and putting it up.
That was a beautiful success at a set play. I said earlier it's difficult to do set plays. Maybe it's not that difficult after all. So good job on the Guelph side for this hold. So the score is now 6 for Guelph and 5 for Université Laval. Donc 6 pour l'Université de Guelph, 5 pour l'Université Laval.
And are we getting close to this halftime cap time?
Donc c'est maintenant la mi-temps. It is now halftime. And we will be taking a short break. On va prendre une petite pause et on vous revient. La mi-temps dure 5 minutes.
See you all soon. Go grab a snack and we'll take a drink of water. And we are back. Before we start this second half, we'd like to acknowledge that the 2023 Canadian University Ultimate Championships are taking place on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Huron-Wendat, Haudenosaunee, and Ojibwa Chippewa peoples, the land that is home to the Métis, and most recently the territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, who are direct descendants of the Mississaugas of the Credit. We also acknowledge that Brampton resides within Treaty 19. We'd also like to thank our sponsors again, Be Ultimate, Discraft, and the City of Brampton for making this event possible. Be Ultimate is on site. Go have a look at all of their amazing swag and see CUUC attire. So, Chantel, we are back. Can you recap the story of that first half for us, please?
So far it's been 1 point each. They've been trading points, and every point that's been scored has been with the win. So the story of the game is whoever scores a point on the opposite direction than what's about to be. Yes, it is caught. So on a un point qui vient d'être fait de la part une passe de la part de Amiot attrapée par Benoît pour un point pour l'Université Laval. So I was saying that this is a point for U Laval, another hold, and so every team has scored so far in that direction. Le score est maintenant 6-6 pour Guelph et Laval. It's an even score, 6-6.
So Laval getting that quick score at a half. Exactly what you want to see from a team down by 1, right? Just talking about a play and executing it quickly with Amiot hucking again.
Absolutely. And if you're just joining us, in red we have Université Laval from Quebec City, and in white we have the Guelph team from Guelph, Ontario.
And I am Devon Asmoda, and this is
Chantal Dussault,
bringing you all your commentary from this quarterfinal specifically.
Et c'est l'équipe qui va remporter ce match ici qui va se classer pour les top 4 équipes du tournoi.
So it looks like Laval might be trying to stack this line. We see Amiot crossing over from that D line for the first time, maybe trying to get some more strong throwers onto here. But the usual suspects are here on this Guelph O-line. You see Nguyen, Muck, Nesbitt, and Prentice especially. Let's see if they can continue on their streak of getting these downwind holds.
T'as raison, Devon. Je crois que l'Université Laval a potentiellement appelé une ligne qui est plus stratégique. On le voit ici avec Pénélope Robert qui vient de faire le coup d'envoi. Je pense que c'est Tran, Amiot. Donc, ils ont mis beaucoup de handlers sur l'équipe, ainsi que le numéro 22, Rochefort.
So you saw Coach Miller there with the clutch stop of the roll, so Guelph can get some more time getting in. So Laval setting up in this 3-3-1 zone. Nguyen tapping it in here. Working to Muck just on this fourth sideline. Oh, great layout there by Palmer, but not far enough. So Nguyen taking this Robert matchup here. Robert putting it up to Amiot. Guelph looking like they're in a zone.
C'est Robert qui l'attrape, mais juste à l'extérieur du terrain. Donc ça va être l'Université de Guelph qui reprend possession. Again, we're seeing this again on the same sideline, as always, same corner.
So Nguyen picking it up, looking for options, hitting that OI flick again. And it looks like that's Reed with the great catch. Nguyen's hit that throw a couple of times. Can you talk about the difficulty of doing something like that?
Well, for the level of skill that they have, this is the kind of throw that they can pull out, and I think that the teams are getting used to the wind. They can give it the right angle, but it's still not easy. It's not easy to throw, not easy to read. No pun intended. But good job on the Guelph side. Again, a hold, right? So the score now is 7 for Guelph, 6 for Laval. So 7 pour Guelph, 6 pour Laval.
And all holds.
All hold. Il n'y a eu aucun bris jusqu'à présent. Est-ce que l'Université de Guelph maintenant va aussi faire ce que l'Université de Laval semblait avoir tenté de faire, c'est-à-dire mettre une ligne qui va potentiellement pouvoir faire le point contre le vent? Will Guelph try to score this point upwind, Devon?
Yeah, so you can see Guelph not doubling over any stars from their O-line. They might be trying to conserve energy there, you see, with like Prentice, Nguyen, Muck, Nesbitt not playing this deep point. So it looks like they might be trying to have that strategy of just continuing downwind hold. And again, if they keep trading up from here, they're going to win the game.
On attend le lancer d'envoi de la part de Guelph. Donc, ça sera à l'Université Laval de commencer. Et ils seront à peu près au quart du terrain. Ça va être Amiot qui prend le disque. Il y a une zone de la part de Guelph qui complique un peu la disponibilité. C'est une zone 3-3-1. Mais la receveuse numéro 80, Després, qui trouve Oh, il y a un appel. Donc, ça a été bien attrapé par Benoît. Par contre, les observateurs qui sont présents sur le terrain ont un rôle et des responsabilités actives par rapport aux lignes. Il semble que la joueuse a marché à l'intérieur du terrain.
And you can see cheer from Guelph. They are calling a travel on Desprez in the end zone, saying that she caught it and was in the end zone when she threw it. So when you catch the disc in the end zone, you have to just walk back, put your foot on the line, and then you're able to throw it. So a travel being called here, and it looks like the observer is upholding that call.
Oui, donc Després qui a simplement à remettre sur la ligne et qui cherche maintenant une option, qui trouve Trahan. Trahan qui est patiente avec le disque, qui trouve Amiot dans la zone de but. Les observateurs confirment, c'est un point. Donc encore un point conservé pour l'Université Laval. And, le score est donc de 7-7, si je ne m'abuse. 7-7.
So 7-7 for Laval. What's Laval doing to keep punching in these holes? What's working for them?
Laval, what they want to do and what they keep doing is really moving the disc, recentering it to some of their key handlers. Sometimes they're exploiting that long game, really being able to put it long, and sometimes they just work it up. So I think that they play with what's available to them, especially in this wind. But the strength of their handlers has been key in them being able to punch it through to the right person in the hands of some very capable receivers. What do you expect that Guelph will be putting on here as a strategy?
I think similar to what you just mentioned about Laval, just taking what's available to them. I think Guelph has the versatility to work through the zones, work through the match defense. So it's probably going to depend on what Laval throws at them, right? Because you've seen the likes of Nguyen, Muck, Prentice, all exchange picking up the disc and all exchange throwing to each other. So, and they also they're not scared to involve their other cutters like Reed and Palmer and Dorigo. So we'll see what comes up. It looks like a vertical stack here with Nguyen taking up the mantle of main handler.
And there's so much on the line with the outcome of this game, Devon. The winner of this game goes on to be able to win the championship, whereas the other one does not. And
yes, it's definitely a lot better to go home in fourth than in the 5-8.
Yeah, and there's only 20 minutes left to the game.
So you saw Nesbitt taking that shot there to the end zone, not working. Laval looking to start quickly.
Laval qui a la possession, qui cherche à sortir de cette zone assez fermée de la part de Guelph. Mais le disque est pris dans le vent.
Nesbitt getting it back, knocking that disc out the air. Nguyen directing traffic before she goes to pick it up. Isolating Prentice here at the front.
C'est Roux qui va appliquer une grosse pression sur la handler.
So it looks like Prentice on Lucier, trying to see. And Nguyen's throw finding too many Guelph hands. Robert rushing to pick it up.
Belle défensive de la part de Fortin dans la zone de but et Fortin avec le disque. Fortin qui cherche une belle option pour contourner cette zone et qui trouve Rochefort à Roux. Roux à Fortin, malheureusement intercepté ou pris dans le vent.
And you saw some good momentum there from Laval, just working it between the ladies there, but just finding the ground nonetheless. So, Nguyen picking up, looking for Prentice again.
Une excellente défensive. Excellente défensive de la part de Lucier, qui joue pour Karma. Et l'Université de Laval la met le plus loin possible pour se donner une chance de remonter le terrain.
Yes, and Robert with a quick hook there. Muck knocking it down, and now Muck picking it up. Muck has Nguyen in the reset space. Swinging it over to Nesbitt. Great bid from the Laval player, Rochefort. So Prentice with the OI flick to Nguyen. Just a little too far.
Devon, I'm not sure if it's me, but I feel like the intensity has just increased in this match. I feel like the defense of Laval on that on those few throws there has been just a notch up.
Yes, I agree. Like, Guelph is definitely having to work harder here for all of their forward progress and not just getting open. You saw Prentice isolated at the front of the stack there in the end zone a couple times, and some great defensive pressure keeping her from getting the disc. But Laval trying to march upwind again.
And c'est un lancer long qui est pas tout à fait attrapé, qui est plutôt défendu par l'équipe de Guelph.
And Muck there getting another D, just a two-hand slam to the ground, leaving no room for any of this.
Et le disque au pied de roue qui le prend sans hésiter à Robert. Robert qui communique à son équipe, venez vers moi, vous êtes trop loin. Qui fait une longue passe dans le milieu du terrain. Les filles qui exploitent ce qui est disponible. Une passe. Belle lecture de Rochefort qui conserve la possession. Qui va choisir de faire une petite passe à Robert, qui est en bonne position. Le vent va aider l'équipe, mais c'est intercepté.
And that is Muck's third D of this point. Laval made a lot of progress, and just a huck out of bounds, unfortunately. So, Laval getting some good field positioning here. What are the chances of them being able to punch in their first break now?
There is a good chance because, as you say, this is the right sideline to be on. Alors, Pénélope Robert qui reprend le disque sur le bon côté du terrain puisque le vent pousse vers le terrain. Donc, même s'il y a un petit vent qui prend le disque, ça va pousser vers les filles. On voit une bonne distribution aussi. Les filles sont distribuées à travers toute la zone de but. Et c'est réussi! Robert qui réussit à faire le point avec Cochon, je crois, la receveuse. Les filles sont extrêmement contentes de ce point. What does this point mean for Laval, Devon?
Yes, if you're watching this, no, Laval did not just win the Canadian University Ultimate Championship, but they did just get that precious upwind break, the first break of the game, making it 8-7 for Laval. And what this means now is that they are now in the driver's seat. All they have to do is get downwind holds to secure the victory.
Yes.
So they are in a great position now.
I'm so excited for Laval. I am not 100% sure who caught that. It might have been Lucier. We'll have to check on the replay.
I don't think we have replays, Chantal.
We don't have replays, but people at home have replays.
Yeah, just press the back arrow a couple times on your computer and just message us. Yes. And we'll get the...
It was either Cochon or Lucier. But in any case, it was a beautiful throw and a great executed catch by Laval, who now has one up. So what is Guelph thinking? You can see both coaches trying to cheer up the Guelph team there, throwing them the disc and hyping them up. What is the message?
The message is probably that it's not over, right? Because yes, Guelph just has to hold up win, but then they get the advantage of a downwind D next, making it Laval's life a lot harder. So it's not over. Yes, Guelph is up one break now, but they can easily get this break back.
There is still almost 15 minutes of play left, so it is still anybody's game, absolutely. I'm sure Laval are very excited, but they're not taking this for granted.
Yes, and you just saw Robert, the Team Canada U24 player, Iris, coming over from that Verte Or program in Sherbrooke, do a lot of the heavy lifting,
yes,
throwing a lot of throws and even the final assist there at the end.
That's right. Alors, l'Université Laval qui prend les devants et qui a fait un point contre le vent, ce qui est un avantage incontestable pour le match parce que c'est le point que les deux équipes tentent de faire depuis le début du match. C'est le point qui va peut-être leur permettre de faire la différence et de se rendre dans les 4 top équipes qui ont l'opportunité de gagner les championnats. Alors, voyons voir si Guelph va aussi être capable de faire un point contre le vent.
So, Nguyen picking it up, swinging to Prentice. The wind seems to have picked up a lot on this point. They're going to have to navigate through this zone. Nguyen hitting ground for it, but bouncing off the hands and Muck making sure that throw was incomplete. So,
oui. Hébert qui tente un long lancer à Benoît dans le fond, mais le lancer prend le vent et n'est pas complété. La passe n'est pas complétée.
So we have Laval getting some favorable field positioning. Muck is going to have a job getting this disc upwind to hopefully punch in the hole for Guelph.
Oui, Laval qui applique une zone pour que ce soit le plus compliqué possible pour l'équipe de Guelph de remonter.
So Muck to Prentice now. Prentice to Nguyen. Nguyen trying to direct traffic, telling her cutters where she wants them to be. Swing it over to Nesbitt. Nesbitt back to Nguyen.
You can see they're getting pushed on that sideline. That's where they don't want to be, so they'll try to recenter that.
Prentice with the disc now. Looking for Nguyen after that OI backhand. Nguyen with the nice toe in, keeping the disc alive. You can see the sense of urgency with these Guelph girls now hitting the ground on all these throws. And still getting those seconds. So Nguyen's throw originally tipped, but Prentice picking up the garbage. So Prentice back to Nguyen in the middle of the field.
Un bel effort défensif d'Amiot, mais ce n'est pas suffisant puisque Guelph a rattrapé.
Swinging it over to Nicholson. Back to Muck. It looks like Laval has melted into a person defense. Nguyen over to Muck, just dribbling themselves. Muck with the nice continue over to Reed. Reed back to Muck. Muck putting it up to Nicholson, and the disc just dropping out of the hands. But that was a great upwind run from Guelph.
That was a great upwind run. So Amiot with the disc. Je ne serais pas surprise qu'ils veulent la mettre le plus loin possible. Oh, quelle attrapée de la part de Benoît dans le milieu du terrain. Trahan qui l'envoie sur le côté. À Cochon qui l'envoie sur le long de la ligne, mais c'est échappé par Cochon.
And Laval also had that sense of urgency, just swinging the disc really quickly. But now it looks like Laval's in a person defense. Prentice looking for Nguyen deep, and Nguyen with the reception. What a great duo that is for Guelph. So Nguyen looking to get this disc off the line. Back to Prentice. Prentice and Nguyen just working with each other, involving Muck in now. Nguyen poached off with the Laval defenders, worried about stopping that end zone shot. Nguyen with the around backhand to Nesbitt, and Guelph gets that upwind hold. How about that?
So the game is tied once more. Both teams have exactly the same advantage. Both teams with the one upwind point. So the score now is 8-8 for Guelph and Laval. Le pointage est 8-8 pour Guelph et Laval, puisque Guelph vient de faire le point contre le vent. Donc, les deux équipes ont exactement le même avantage. Pour l'instant, c'est très difficile de dire qui va remporter le match.
And you see Coach Marianne Stills of the University of Guelph calling a timeout there. And I'm no coach, but I could guess that they're probably trying to rest their players so they can go play on this downwind D point.
What are your thoughts, Devon? Do you think they're going to start calling power lines at this time, given that there are, probably 10 minutes left? Let me check the time here.
Yeah, just to answer your question, yeah. This is
10 minutes left to the game.
This is University Nationals. You're trying to get a top 4 spot in the country. You know, you develop your players all season long for the future seasons, but now this is the time to rely on your stars. This is the time for you to play 2-3 points in a row. You know, most of these players are between 18 and 23. They'll be able to wake up tomorrow morning just fine after all these points in a row.
Yes, so, and given that some points do take 10 minutes to complete with all the turnovers that we've seen, maybe coming out of this timeout, we are going to see 2 power lines.
Oh, yeah, you definitely see it. So, Prentice, Nguyen, Muck, Nesbitt, Reed. This is basically Nicholson, Palmer. This is basically this Guelph O-line here. And the usual suspects on the line for Laval.
Exactement. Sur l'Université Laval, on voit qu'ils ont choisi les filles en qui ils ont très, très confiance. Toutes les filles sont bonnes, mais là, ils ont dit, OK, on va y aller avec des valeurs sûres qui jouent bien, comme Pénélope Robert, comme Amiot, comme Rochefort.
And unfortunately, the pull from Prentice dropped from Robert, giving Guelph that really good field positioning just outside of their end zone. Guelph deciding who they want to pick it up. It looks like Nguyen will be picking up the disc, isolating Muck at the front of the stack. And Nguyen to Muck. What a turn of events, Chantal.
This was unexpected. Malheureusement, l'Université Laval qui a fait un échappé, qui peut arriver à n'importe qui, mais c'était probablement le moment où il ne fallait pas que ça arrive. Il y a eu un échappé sur le côté, sur la ligne de but. Donc, l'Université de Guelph a pu tout de suite prendre le disque, faire le point. C'est pas le meilleur temps pour l'Université Laval pour que ça arrive, mais c'est ce qui arrive et c'est ça, le frisbee. Donc, l'Université de Guelph qui fait le point. Le pointage maintenant 9-8 pour l'Université de Guelph.
And this is why we play sports. It looked like Guelph was down after Laval got that upwind break, but it's sports. Anything can happen. And Guelph now got that upwind after a couple tries and punched in that downwind break to go back up 9-8. And like you said, do they rest their stars? No, this is exactly why you double them, so they can help you. Maybe getting a little break there from Laval, unfortunately dropping the pole, but nonetheless, using that star power to get this downwind break.
Absolutely, and you can see that the mood has changed. So before it was the University of Guelph that was getting cheered up. Now the University of Guelph is hyped up, and the University of Laval is trying to get really their spirits up and to say to themselves, let's get this next one.
So what does Laval have to do here to try to gain the advantage for themselves?
Just keep calm. This pull is going to be more than halfway, so keep calm and either use that long, because they have had some success with the long throw, or recenter it.
And you see Yang there playing some great reset defense on Robert, but Amiot's throw just picked up.
Oui, Robert qui a une belle présence d'esprit de réattraper le disque qui avait été frappé par l'autre équipe. Une belle passe dans le côté ouvert. L'Université Laval. Oh, et 43 de Benoît qui attrape le disque entre ses jambes. Il y a une discussion à savoir si c'est encore un bon disque.
It looks like there is a down call from the Guelph player Duncan, saying that as the disc was being caught in between her legs, it looked like she lost control of it.
Alors, ça va être relancé à l'Université Laval. Després.
So it looks like
oui.
It looks like observer Nelson saying he didn't have the best perspective, so they are sending the disc back to Després.
Bon, alors Després qui cherche une option pour faire un lancer qui est sécuritaire pour elle, qui dit exactement à Trahan où elle veut l'avoir. C'est une belle communication d'équipe. Amiot avec le disque. Amiot, il y a un appel. L'appel avait l'air, dans le fond, c'est un pic dans le fond du terrain.
And Cheer doing all she could on the mark to stop Amiot, doing jumping jacks on the mark here just so no hugs get out.
Amiot à Cochon. Cochon qui cherche un long, mais oui, qui le met du côté fermé. Amiot. Amiot à Benoît s'est attrapé et c'est un point pour l'Université Laval. Alors, Benoît qui a attrapé le disque. C'est la même qui a fait le disque entre les jambes, mais ça a été retourné parce que c'était pas clair pour les deux si c'était un attrapé qui était valide. Donc, l'Université Laval garde ce point-là. C'est 9-9. So 9-9 the score, Devon. What do you think is going to make a difference in this game? How can this game be won?
We have seen field positioning being such an important part of this game. So you can't be turning over the disc near your end zone because the other team is just too skilled and will just capitalize on those mistakes. So what's important for Guelph here on the hold is not to turn it over on these short field swings. You gotta put it to the other team's end zone if you want to have a turnover, right? Because with the likes of Robert, Amiot on this Laval side, they can throw upwind. They can help power this upwind break that Laval so desperately wants.
Absolutely. And there are about 4 minutes left to the game. And so now, given that it's tied, if Guelph scores after the buzzer, then Guelph wins the game. If Université Laval scores after the buzzer, Université Laval wins the game. So depending on how long this point lasts, maybe this is the last point. We don't know, and the score is tied.
Yeah, so Robert with the great pull, getting them well past half. It looks like Guelph stopping that disc. Nguyen picking up the disc, isolating Reed and Prentice in a split stack here.
Une défensive extrêmement importante de la part de Lucier pour donner la possession à l'Université Laval qui cherche à faire le prochain point pour potentiellement gagner le match puisqu'il reste environ 4 minutes au match. Lucier avec le disque. Il cherche un lancer sécuritaire qu'il met à Trahan. Trahan qui a vu Rochefort, mais qui dit non, c'est pas un lancer que je veux faire pour l'instant. À Amiot. À Pénélope. Le disque est dans les airs. Est-ce qu'il va être rattrapé? Non. Oui! Est-ce que c'est attrapé?
So that was Trahan.
Trahan qui s'est lancé pour l'attraper. Il y a un appel pour dire est-ce que c'est bien valide ou est-ce qu'il a touché par terre. Donc, les filles en discutent.
And again, the classic announcement, you have to reenact it just so they know it's true. That's Nguyen trying to make her case on Trahan. But it looks like observer Linda had a good perspective, so we'll see if they go to the observers for a ruling here.
And observer Linda is speaking. L'observatrice parle pour dire que ça va être contesté.
So it looks like it is a contested down call that will go back to the thrower, but Muck, after this decision, is trying to make her case. But no, the observers are really shutting this down. The down call will be contested. So back to the thrower.
Bon, c'était un lancer qui était très haut dans les airs, puis qui a causé tout un émoi. Finalement, puisqu'il y a de la confusion par rapport à est-ce que le disque est encore valide ou pas, il va revenir au dernier point où est-ce qu'on était tous en accord.
All right, so Amiot with the disc now, Prentice on her, and also look to this Nguyen-Robert matchup downfield.
Donc, Amiot qui va prendre le disque. Les filles qui se parlent pour décider dans quelle direction ils vont aller. Parce qu'encore, l'équipe qui va faire le point va potentiellement gagner le match.
Probable.
Alors, Amiot avec le disque. Qui regarde ses options. Robert, côté fermé, qui attrape. Robert qui va dans le fond. Qui est attrapé par la numéro 22, Rochefort, en même temps que le klaxon qui indique la fin du match.
And I think the horn went off just as Laval was throwing the disc, so that was the last point of the game, and unfortunately, the Guelph Loaf girls just giving up one break too many there at the end, losing 10-9.
Une belle victoire bien méritée pour Laval, mais crève-cœur, une défaite crève-cœur pour Guelph. Les deux équipes avaient leur place, clairement, dans ce match. Et puis, ça s'est joué sur les derniers lancers et puis ça s'est joué sur le temps, les dernières secondes qui restaient dans le match. Un beau timing. On entend les célébrations d'ici de l'Université Laval qui sont extrêmement contentes d'aller dans le top 4.
And this is truly a tale of two different teams right now. You saw the experience of Laval coming fifth last year at this Nationals, coming through, not getting stressed that they were down a few points early, making it back, making a return to the top four. And unfortunately, Guelph, you have to feel for the fifth years like Nguyen and Prentice, who have built this team up from the ground. But this isn't to take away from anything that they've done. You know, you've turned a bunch of people who didn't play the sport of Frisbee, maybe played a couple points in tournaments in high school, to now touring players. So
they played an amazing game, the Guelph team did, and really it was the circumstances of this exact timing, you know, that created the difference. So a great game, but Guelph does move on to the bracket of 5th to 8th place, and Université Laval moves into the bracket of 1st to 4th place.
So this is Devana Asmoda
and Chantal Dussault
signing off. Please join us for our men's open semifinal between the Queen's University Mothership and University de Montréal
Carabin.
Carabin. All right, we'll take a quick break and we will see you in about 20 minutes.